Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back with another Big Love Season 2 review. Bill is so full of crap that he himself cannot see past his nose. And it's rather annoying because he spends so much time jacking up things, so much time messing up things for himself and for the other people around him, yet he takes no ownership in it. This man struggles to admit his faults, and yet he's left to be in charge of multiple people, not just in his family, but when it comes to his business. He surrounds himself with people who aren't allowed to question him because he's the one who knows all and sees all. And despite him at times supposedly tapping into them, he only wants to utilize them when it's convenient for him. We see this a lot with his partnership with Don, that I personally don't feel like it's a partnership. I feel like he dictates a lot to Don, that he belittles him and he doesn't listen to him. And I don't see how Don does it. We are supposed to believe that Bill is this great man and this great husband and this great father and boss, but I personally don't. I only feel like he's good as long as he gets his way. I personally feel like in order to be a good husband and or father, that you have to at times put others before yourself. You have to at times think of someone other than yourself. And Bill shows us time and time and time again that he is too selfish to do that. Hello, bald eagle. So much like what Joey says later on in the episode, with him saying that most polygamous men are selfish, I do feel like Bill is selfish. So we're going to take this person by person. It's not going to be in order. Follow me here. If there is someone that I leave out or something that I missed that you want to talk about, feel free to put it down below. Like the video, it helps the channel. Let's get started. So Don is continuing to be belittled by his so-called friend Bill. Don, to me, represents what should be Bill's conscience at times. He is a polygamist, yes, but I feel like Don is presenting himself in a way that Bill tries to. I feel like whether or not he gives him credit for it, that Don is more business savvy than Bill. Y'all correct me down below if I'm wrong. And I feel like Don seems to have his head on in this area because Don is seeing that his partner may not be operating from a business sense, and instead he's operating more as a means to get back at Roman. And considering all that we've seen, I think that he's right. I feel like this is more so about him getting back at Roman, but y'all let me know what you think. So we get a taste of how Bill may have gotten Margene. He is at this spot, we'll call it a diner, restaurant, whatever. He's eating lunch while they talk about business. And he seems to be more focused at times on the waitress than on the fact that his business partner is reluctant to be a part of this other business. Because throughout the episode, Don makes it clear that he's not into gambling and he's not into slot machines, and he does not like the thought of this business, especially because they haven't thoroughly investigated it. But Bill gets what he wants by any means necessary, which brings me back to the waitress, right? So Anna, she is completely unaware of who Bill is or his beliefs and the fact that he has multiple wives. Bill, at one point, as he continues to go back to this establishment, removes the ring from his hand, his wedding ring, as he talks to Anna. Bill, throughout this episode, is leading all types of lives. Businessman, husband, and I don't know, person who wants to get a new boo. So he is at the restaurant over and over again for good pie and to fulfill Margene's pregnancy cravings. I personally feel like he's fulfilling his own cravings, because here he is flirting with this woman, having random conversations with her, and all these things. Now, he later tells Don, about her, and Don wonders about a testimony. But to me, this is just showing once again that these men in their so called testimonies sometimes are full of crap. Because how is it that in so many instances, y'all are making these moves without your wives being present, when you're telling us that your wives are the ones who get this process kicked off? But as we've seen, it's book after book after book after book where this isn't the case. They like to make these other women think that they had a part in it when they didn't. It happened with Mary and Janelle. It happened with Mary and Robin. It happened with the other wives and Robin. Like, this is what they do. On top of that, why y'all always pursuing people while you got a pregnant wife at home? Even Joe Darger did it. He married his third wife while the first wife was pregnant and about to have a baby. We read the book. This is what they do. And I think that these men get what they want by wearing the women down time after time after time. And it's not right. It's just another example of the foolishness that goes on sometimes. So we see at some point she tells Bill to take her number. At another point, Margene goes to the restaurant to go ahead and get her some pie, because that's what she's craving. And she has her boys with her. And she sees him through the window as he's flirting with the waitress, another woman. Now, rather than getting upset and doing something wild, she does compose herself, and she goes at a later time without the kids, and she smiles as she talks to this waitress, and she eats pie. Y'all tell me what you thought about that. On to Sarah. Sarah is at Scott's apartment, and her and Scott are fully clothed, but they're making out heavy on the couch. He is very turned on, to the point where you can tell he's trying to catch a little bit of breath. So the phone keeps ringing and ringing and ringing. He's like, "Are you going to get that?" And he urges her to go get it. As she's walking away, we see him put his hand in his pelvic area, like he's trying to cover up the fact that he's got a soldier that's standing tall. A little bit of wood there, it's not flaccid, we'll say that. So he's covering it up, and she gets a phone call from her co-workers as they're saying, "You need to come to work." And she's like, "I'm off today." And they're like, "Okay, but you need to come here because your grandma is here." Now, I knew it wasn't Lois, but Sarah goes to see what her grandma's doing there. She walks in, and it's Rhonda. And they're like, "Oh, your grandmother came to see you." And they're making fun of the situation. They're laughing like it's funny, but this isn't funny for Sarah, because she does not want so many people knowing the inner workings of her family and about her family, and Rhonda being there isn't a good look. So Rhonda tells her that she spent the week sleeping on the streets and she needs her help. She tells her, "Don't call your mom, because I don't want your mom to contact Nikki's mom and then forcibly have me impregnated." Rhonda says a whole bunch of various things and different accusations in this episode that I'm not sure how to take. I just feel like it's Rhonda being Rhonda, but I wonder about the whole Scott thing, so we'll get to it. So later, Sarah tries to gauge her mother to see what she'd do if she found Rhonda. And Barb says, "I found out that Rhonda exposed me by putting Roman up to it." Now, I wanted to know if I was missing something, because I didn't think that Rhonda put Roman up to anything. I think she probably told him some things, and he did what he wanted to do, because much like Bill, Roman does what he wants. So she doesn't know what she would do, but she does feel like it would be their responsibility to make sure that they helped her. So we are at one of Sarah's co-workers' house, and apparently that's where Rhonda stayed, and Rhonda's like, "I don't want to be here. It's not right." One of the girls is smoking, and Heather's like, "Why would you do that?" knowing she's uncomfortable with it. And Sarah decides to move her someone else. So she is causing trouble there. She goes to the next spot and she's spouting off doctrine and everything else before she even spends the night. This place is Scott's. And he's like, I don't really want her here. I don't feel comfortable with her staying here overnight. She's 16 years old. I can't have a minor and be harboring a runaway and all these other things. And he's like, look, I'll do it for you, but it can't be for long. And I'm going to have to call my cousin to come over here because I don't feel comfortable being alone with her. I personally see why he said that, because the next day, Sarah ends up coming back over there where Rhonda has locked the door, won't let the man get in his own bedroom as she's spouting off all these different doctrines and things of that nature. And she lets Sarah in, but tells Sarah that he tried to R her and he was on top of her and all these other things. And Sarah obviously doesn't believe her. And she's like, look, what do you want at this point? And she tells her that she wants Heather. So Heather eventually comes over to get her, which Heather said in the very beginning that she could stay with her. And Heather is like, oh, so once again, I'm the last choice. And she's like, looking at her like, I'm always the last choice. And to be fair, at first I was like, it's not that deep, Heather. You're not always the last choice. But then I thought about it and I was like, oh, went to the party. You had an option to go somewhere else with Heather and you chose to go to the party and Heather rescued you. Movie situation, you rather hang out with Scott and Heather again was there for you. Like, Heather seems to be there for her in instances where Sarah may not be there as much for Heather. Then at the same point, Sarah might have just not wanted to have her go to Heather's because Heather's father is a state trooper. But y'all tell me what you think down below. We get to Nikki. Nikki is struggling. Nikki has to feel alone because we see her at one point calling the compound to speak to her father, but she doesn't say anything. She just listens to his voice as he continuously says, hello, hello, and then's like, Rhonda, and that's when she hangs up. Because Nikki has been cut off, Nikki doesn't have anywhere to turn to. She normally would call her mother, but we saw what happened with her and her mother last episode. So at her suggestion, her son Wayne is attending a summer program at a Catholic school. I'm not sure where it is, but it has to be far enough away for Nikki and Bill to not be hiding and they're being seen in public together to appear as this happy monogamous couple. It's going well at first, and Bill is impressed by the things that Wayne is coming home and sharing with him. However, at some point, Wayne brings home a rosary and Nikki is bothered. She tells her sons not to play with it because it's dangerous. And she goes to throw it in the trash as Margie comes over and sees it. And she's like, no, don't throw that in the trash. You can give it to me. And Nikki looks at her and drops it in the trash. Anyways, she already feels like she's been ripped away from her community. So I'm not surprised by her feeling ripped even further more away by seeing that rosary, something that she doesn't believe in. And now you have this other religious system entering your home. For Nikki, this is a problem, but for Margie, it provides her comfort and reminder of memories that she had because she used to attend Catholic school. So Nikki goes to the school to confront one of the sisters. I believe she's a sister. Correct me down below if I'm wrong. I thought she was a nun, but I didn't see her with a covering, and I don't know, the rules of that. So for the sake of this, I'm just going to call her a sister because the lady did say sister, yada, 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 when she was talking to her about her child. So she's like, did you get my message? I called, and she's like, yes, I got your message about the rosary. And we did not give your son the rosary because he's not baptized Catholic, and we do not feel like that's a toy. So she's like, okay, well, we enrolled my son into this school. And when my husband and I enrolled him into this school, we made it clear that he is not to be indoctrinated. And the nun's like, we don't do that. We believe in the Trinity, the Holy Trinity, and things of that nature, but we didn't do that. She says, Wayne is a lovely child, and we like having him here. We see Nikki then later come back, and she does a little bit changing on herself because she actually shows up to the school and she's wearing pants. She looks pretty. And we see her try to make friends with the other parents, but they're looking down upon her. And I guess that goes back to the fact that a lot of times we want to act like it's just the cults that look down on us, when if we're being honest, we look down on them too. There's things that we don't agree with and things of that nature, but to me it's very important that despite me may not agreeing with your beliefs or you not agreeing with mine, that we're still compassionate towards each other. And these people didn't seem compassionate to Nikki as she was, trying to smile at them or try to speak with them. They looked at her like she was crazy. But then again, Nikki didn't really say hi, like, hey, how are you doing, or anything like that. But she was getting looks. So she sees two moms whispering and talking to each other, and she decides that she's gonna pull her child out of school, right? Without Bill's knowledge. This is after them having a discussion at the dinner table about it and him saying no and all those other things. It's clear to me that she's in over her head. So I guess it's the next day, he's dressed up and she's schooling him. She's asking him questions like, what is 1 + 1? And she's using the calculator to verify his answer. I don't know if this is just her doing it to act like a teacher or if she's doing it because she really doesn't know. I would hope that's not the case. Like, I understanding their schooling is limited, but she knows a little bit of finance, I'm thinking. Then again, with her debt, I don't know. So she quickly realizes that she isn't up to the task of teaching him. And Margene comes over, sees him because they're supposed to go shopping. And she's like, wait a second, what is he doing here? And she's like, you got to tell, Barb and Bill what you're doing. And they go back and forth about it. And she's like how, she felt judged and all those other things. And Margene tells her, people in your religion act 10 times more superior and judgmental than the Catholics that you keep complaining about. And Nikki's offended. And Nikki's like, Margene, you were baptized in our religion. Remember, it's not your religion, it's our religion. And Margene's like, I know I was, but I'll never act like a fake, oh, I'm so good and humble, upright sacrificer. And she's right, because you can have your faith without looking down upon others. So at some point, her son Wayne runs away from home. He's found later on jumping on a trampoline. We then can assume that he's back in school because he's dressed up sitting outside with his mom, looking like an angel, where his father then comes, grab his hand, greets him, and they walk into the school. So Bill gets what he wants because, as he said at the table, one of the things that he liked about this place is that he doesn't have to hide. He can show up for his son and they can present as a couple. And he gets to see his son's performance at school, which is what he always wanted. On to Don. Okay, despite not being into it, he's the one taking meetings and hunting down the gaming person. And Don feels like he is no longer interested in the author. But I personally feel like the man didn't show up, because Don talks about how he was supposed to be at this meeting and the guy never showed up, and he hunted him down and found him at some hotel. I feel like the man is in a rush to sell for other reasons. It's very sketchy to me. Something doesn't seem good about it, especially because I'm guessing one of his wives or somebody calls and she's talking about lamp shades in the living room, and he's like, we can get some more lamps. He's at the hotel, as I said. Bill wants that meeting. So eventually, Mr. Reese comes in, says at this point, he has to make decisions that are in his best interest. He can't wait around and do things for the interest of Bill. It went from them having 30 days to figure out what they want to do to them having a few days, which means they have not been able to look into the company the way that Don wants them to, the way that a lot of us would want to. I feel like, as I said, that the man is running. So Bill's like, look, I'll put in 7% earnest money. The guy says, you got until Thursday to do it. If this is what you want to do, I'll even throw in a boat at the end of it. He's too eager. Something isn't right. So we see Bill ask Uncle Eddie if he can borrow the cash for this investment. Uncle Eddie wants 6% interest on the loan and 15% of the business. Bill is trying to act like he's doing this. This is what he's telling his uncle because of how Roman got, his grandfather unalived and how Roman humiliated his wife and then living in the van back in the day when they got tossed out and all these other things. But his uncle doesn't feel like that's the case. His uncle feels like Donnie's trying to get to Roman. Something isn't right with his uncle either, though, because we see his uncle go to Lois and ask Lois if he can have a loan from her. We find out, he says, all I need is 10 cans of peas from you to help Bill with this business. Lois is doing good for herself for a business that she's claiming isn't even open yet. I don't understand how that works, but I guess right now she's fixing it up before she opens it. I don't know. That's when we find out that in the can of peas, what's really happening is Lois is toting around her money because she doesn't believe in banks. Lois tells him no, she's not lending him anything. It's hers. I'm not mad at Lois, especially because Bill has already shown that although he has great business practices in some cases, that he has too many hands in the pie. So Bill leaves a message on the phone for Eddie that we get to overhear of him saying like he'll give him 8%. Eddie gets off the phone listening to the message. He's taking money out of the bag as his new wife is looking at him and is like, why don't you get the money from Lois? We can't touch that money yet. What did they do to get that money? Something isn't adding up here, and it's making me wonder how sketchy Eddie really is. So Don lets Bill know that he doesn't want to do it. But Bill goes around, gives him this whole little speech, and then tells him that I put up an offer anyway. Don's like, okay. He tells Don it's about belief. Don says thanks. Don is upset. He looks upset, but he doesn't go there with him. I personally don't think it's a good investment, and I want Don to stop dealing with Bill, who seems to be a user, just like Roman and just like Cody. Joey. I saved Joey for last because there was a lot going on with Joey this episode. So Joey is going through a lot, and you think that he'd be happy because he's no longer in jail and he's at home with his wife and his son, but Lois had other plans. Lois comes to the house and she's smiling and he's like, where's Wanda? And she's like, oh, I drove Wanda to a place to get help. It was so hard on me. I got her committed. And she's walking in with the baby. Joey hops in the car. He pulls off. He speeds off. He leaves. I thought that he was heading to see Wanda. We find out that he did see Wanda and he went to the medical hospital and they won't say when they'll release her, which in turn made him, because he was so frustrated with everything, cause a disruption. So he wants Barb to go to the hospital and try to get her out or find out when she can get out. I don't quite get him and Barb's dynamic. There's something else there that I want them to let us know. So Joey says, look, at this point, all I want is a job, my baby, and Wanda. Barb tells him, you got to move off the compound because everything about that place drags you down. I believe it does, but I think Barb's leaving out the fact that her husband drags him down too. He says he wants to move off the compound, but he's not sure if he can make it in other places because of what he's been through, because he has a felony. I said, all right. He said he tried it before. I want to know what this felony is for. So she says, look, I'm going to talk to Bill and I'm going to try to work things out. And Bill's like, no, not Bill. Joey's like, no, I don't want to deal with him. I personally wouldn't either, because Bill isn't a safe space and he always seems to be using people and doing things for his benefit while not thinking about the others. So Joey tells Barb, like, look, you're an amazing person, and he leaves. Joey returns home to his mom and a woman. It's Kathy, and she's looking after their son. She is newly widowed. Lois set all this in motion. She feels like it's time for Joey to be a polygamist. So she brings this woman into the house to take on the role of mother for Joey's son and wife to Joey while his wife is away. Joey is upset because it's not what he wants. He tells his mom that. And Lois is like, Wanda isn't the only woman in the world for you. You and Wanda on your own, you mount up to no good. It's a sicko love. It's time for you to take a second wife and get on with the sacred business of living the principle. It's supposed to be a funny moment in some ways because it's Lois and I like Lois. But to me, this once again shows the constant battle that Joey is in, because he doesn't want this and he has no one to turn to. I like Lois, but Lois is brainwashed too, showing us once again how deep this thing is and reminding us of how hard it is for people to escape this when they're born into it. So Barb gets a call from Joey, who is like, are you alone? And he fills her in on everything. Barb tells him not to, get sucked up in it. Interesting that Barb is so against this whole thing, yet Barb is a polygamist herself. He reminds Barb not to tell her husband that he doesn't want a second wife. He says, I feel like any man who joins the principle is selfish. And Barb's like, please don't speak like that about my husband. But Barb knows that there may be some truth to it, because at times her husband is very selfish. He tells her, Barb, you're the only, he apologizes and says, you're the only one keeping me going. Not his son, but Barb. That's odd. He very much so has an affinity for Barb. And Bill mentions it later. So Barb tells Bill that they need to help Joey. He's mad because of what happened, and he's holding it against Joey about the whole tape recording and all these other things. But you can't stand up against Roman. So how did you expect Joey to do so when Joey actually lives on the compound? He's mad about that and the attempted murder committed by his wife and him getting pulled into it. And Joey is broken, he says, and Joey has let him down. As usual, Bill doesn't see the part that he played in any of it. He tells Barb, you got to let him sink or swim on his own and stop, running to save him. And stop acting like, he's a project. Bill is acting like he didn't require other people to get to where he's gotten, and his amnesia and his ego irk me. So we see Barb go to visit Wanda. She fills Wanda in on everything that's going on, including the fact that Lois is trying to get her husband a new wife. And Wanda feels like Joey should get one because she likes Kathy. And despite him not wanting to, she feels like Joey can't handle the baby alone and he needs someone to look after him. I don't understand why we're acting like these men who are supposed to be heads of households can't, do certain things on their own. She's like, look, I don't know what's going to come of me. They don't know what's going to come of me. I could be in and out of mental institutions for the rest of my life. So Joey later shows up at Barb's because he didn't want to stay the night at the house with the lady over there watching the baby. Interesting that you're that comfortable to leave this woman with your child. You must really, really know Kathy, or y'all are just accustomed to doing this. So he's laid out on the couch. Barb goes, wakes up Bill, tells him to talk to Joey. He doesn't want to. Bill's annoyed that, Barb got involved. And he says, you just can't resist him, can you? And Barb is like, no, I can't. Barb says, you have to make up with him because he leans on me otherwise. Help him. Meanwhile, Margene is snoring. And Barb is like, how can you deal with that? So it's the next morning. Bill finally comes to talk to his brother. He's acting like Joey owes him something, like he was trying to help Joey when he was really trying to help himself, and Joey calls him out on it. Joey tells him he doesn't need a lecture. He said, you put me on that board and you made me a target. You put me close to Roman for your own interest. It didn't have nothing to do with me. I went along with it because I thought I should want the same things you do, but I don't. I don't care what Roman does or doesn't do on the UEB. I just would like to live peacefully with Wanda. And as he's saying it, I say good for Joey, because Wanda got her quirks and she has her stuff. But Wanda overall to me seems like a good woman. So Joey lets him know that, not Joey, Bill lets Joey know that Barb talked to Wanda, and Wanda wants you to take, Kathy as a wife. He says, do you want a regular job? We need truck drivers. It's steady and independent and it pays well. And we don't get to hear his answer to that, because that's when Bill goes and helps Nikki look for the son that isn't missing. He's at a neighbor's house jumping on the trampoline. I feel bad for Joey because it is so clear that he wants out, but he's stuck. It's weird to end on him, but he, at this point in the episode, is the one that I feel sorriest for. And I just feel like Bill can kick rocks. If there's something that I left out that you want to talk about, feel free to put it down below. Overall, this episode was decent. I'm still very much so enjoying the show, and I hope you guys are enjoying the reviews. Until next time.